Okay, we're calling the meeting to order. We will start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Ms. Mulhern.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We begin this meeting with an acknowledgement and honor for the many legacies that have impacted our community, particularly those buried over time. Acknowledging truth is critical to building mutual respect and connection across all barriers of heritage and difference. Cheltenham Township stands with the Lenape-Hoquink, the ancestral homeland of the Lenni Lenape civilization. Their people were and still are caretakers of this land and its rivers, and their legacy continues. We pay respect to their elders, past and present. Our community owes its existence and vitality to generations from around the world who contributed their hopes, dreams, and energy to making the history that led us to this moment. Some were brought here against their will, some were drawn to leave their distant homes in the hope of a better life, and some have lived on this land for more generations than can be counted. Please take a moment to consider the many legacies of violence, displacement, migration, and settlement that bring us together. As a school district committed to fostering intellectual curiosity and discourse in service of social justice, join us in uncovering such truths.
Thank you, Ms. Mulhern. Ms. Harding will provide the roll call.
Ms. Blitzstein,
Here.
Mr. Burdell-Williams,
Present.
Mr. Epps,
Present.
Ms. Henry,
Present.
Ms. Lohman,
Present.
Ms. Mulhern,
Present.
Ms. Murphy,
Present.
Mr. Schultz,
Present.
and Dr. Whiting.
Present.
Thank you. That concludes the roll call.
Thank you, Ms. Harding. Next, we have recognitions from Principal Lytle at Myers Elementary School.
Hello. There we go. All right. I love Myers, our students, our community, and our staff. We have a lot of great things that are happening there, and we try to root them as we move forward in the strategic plan. Today I would like to highlight, in addition to the wonderful artwork that has been displayed by our students, they are doing an amazing job learning that English and that math, that science and that social studies, and teaching across curriculums and learning and taking all those skills and blending them together. And this is just an example of that. As we highlight our focus for this evening, in alignment with the pillars, we will focus today on our efforts for diversity, equity, belonging, and inclusion. We had an outstanding event for Autism Awareness Day. Dr. Scriven, several parents, our entire student body, as well as our staff was able to participate in an event to help us to just kind of exemplify that pillar. As outlined in the strategic plan, we want to make sure that we provide a consistent school environment that is safe and welcoming to all, that promotes and sustains healthy relationships, affirms all scholars, and creates a space that is conducive to 21st century teaching and learning. So as I said, we had our Autism Awareness Day, and we've been celebrating, we celebrated Autism Awareness Month with daily morning announcements. We as a staff had T-shirts, sharing information with the students each day on the PA system, bridging the gap between classrooms and creating peer buddies and those sorts of things. And we kind of culminated everything with our Autism Awareness Day. It was a great day. All of our students were able to immerse themselves in an interactive experience to teach them how they can better understand autism and engage with their peers who may have autism. And we are continuing on our journey to be a fully inclusive school, and what that really means in practice. It's beyond just putting people in the same environment, but how can we create authentic situations that really allow students to engage with one another, knowing each other, and working together to form those authentic, real, and genuine relationships. So this was one of those steps to accomplishing that. And I'm going to speed up a little bit. Next slide, please. So we focused on autism awareness, and we wanted to create experiences that gave students the perspective as relates to what some of their peers who have autism might be experiencing in the realms of communication and sensory needs. Next slide. So we had 4 stations. 2 of them were communication-based and 2 of them were sensory-based. And what they did was they immersed students in an experience to see what their peers might be experiencing when it comes time to them to have to process information or express information. So students worked in pairs in this first station to provide sentences and to communicate, students worked in pairs from provided sentences, and they had to communicate that information using an iPad, finding the sentences on their talker in order to communicate with each other. Many of our students in our autism support class at Myers have high adaptive needs and have high communication needs. So this was an example of how they can utilize those devices, as the students do, in order to communicate with one another, similar to those students have to communicate with their teacher in the classroom. And there's a couple pictures if you go to the next slide. These are students that are using iPads and devices called switches in order to find phrases on those devices in order to communicate their desires, their ideas to one another. Next slide. They had a great time. You could see the light bulbs going off in their head as they were kind of making the connections on their own. It was all hands-on and very interactive. Next slide. Students in all grades, kindergarten through 4th grade, all had their time engaging in this activity, and it was really wonderful. So next slide. Next slide. We also had another communication station. Remember, there were 4 stations. 2 were communication-based and 2 were sensory-based. For this slide, they had to communicate using sign language. So if you could click the blue link where it says communication, go back and click on the word communication. Right, yep. All right, we're going to skip that. All right, the next, that's okay, we can skip it. The next station was a sensory station. Next slide, please. Well, in that sensory station, what students had to do was they had to wear earphones, and the earphones contained white noise. And it was to replicate many of the distractions or many of the sensory overload that some of the students might have when they're trying to communicate and engage with learning. So it was a really enlightening experience for them to try to engage with one another with the distraction of the noise in the headphone and still try to convey their ideas, thoughts, and feelings. And the last station, this was one I found very interesting. Station 4 was another sensory station, and it was to give students a glimpse into, next slide, what it's like to have sensitivity to various fabrics on your skin as you're trying to engage. So they will put different fabrics underneath of their clothing and have to do different activities and try to kind of navigate that irritating feeling or that oversensitivity to that feeling as they try to engage with one another. All in all, was a great experience. Our students learned a lot. It's cool to be kind was one of the things that we talked about. And the next slide shows a bulletin board that we made, and all the students in the entire school were able to sign it, and staff members as well. And this is the pledge that we said each day. I pledge to accept, respect, and include people of all abilities, including my peers with special needs and disabilities. Inclusion begins with me. And that was at the core of what we tried to accomplish. I'm very proud of our teachers who took ownership of this. Lauren Tracy, I can't say her name enough. Lauren Tracy. Dr. Lank for her support. Dottie Mazzullo, so many people, Dr. Brown Beasley, took the initiative to create this experience for our kids in order to exemplify that diversity, that inclusion, and that belonging. Next slide. This is our team. We all purchased, as a school, autism t-shirts. Once again, I had to take about 50 pictures. Everyone's not there. But I just didn't blend them all together. But everyone, for every Friday of that month, we wore our autism awareness t-shirts throughout the day, just to kind of promote that awareness and inclusivity. Next slide. And the last thing that I wanted to highlight, remember, as we talk about diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging, and we talk about the school district's pillars of creating a safe and welcoming environment, I'm very pleased to announce that Myers was recognized by the state for implementation of PBIS at Tier 1 for the 4th year in a row. And this year, we were, for the first time, acknowledged and received state recognition for implementation of Tier 2 interventions and supports. So that is a very huge accomplishment for our school team. We definitely see the impact of that on our students as they feel as if they belong and they're included. We talk about data. We see decreases in some of our the undesired behaviors, and we see increases in some of those positive behaviors. So that is what it's all about. That Tier 1 is just making sure that we have a welcoming school environment that celebrates all students and encourages them, but we know one size doesn't fit all. So as we incorporated those Tier 2 interventions this year in order to meet the needs of all of our students and to kind of adjust it to what they need, a healthy incorporation of MTSS in Dr. Keene's office, Ms. Keene's office, as we utilize that MTSS process to use the data in order to see exactly what each kid needs. All that being said, I'm very proud of our school. Carly Siegel, our wonderful counselor, led our efforts along with Leah Smith, Anna Kramis, Mike Schmidt. All of these wonderful teachers are putting together a program that makes our school very rich and meets the needs of all individuals. So thank you for allowing us to highlight Myers. There's some wonderful things going on there with wonderful students, wonderful community, and a wonderful staff. Thank you guys for allowing me the time.
Thank you, Mr. Lytle.
Thank you, Principal Lytle. At this time, and we're going to ask that as our principals are called up, you may want to do as Mr. Lytle model, and we will work on getting a mic which is more conducive to the standard of excellence that we're trying to exhibit. That mic is not doing that. So I would ask Principal DeAndrea from Cheltenham High School if you could still come up first. We are recognizing our teachers with 25 years of service in the district this evening. We were able to have a fellowship down in room 102 just to serve them dinner, and this is just our way of saying thank you. Our veteran teachers are definitely the pillars within our district, and I want to commend those who did respond and made time out of their schedule to come out. The numbers here are few, but they're mighty as always. So we're still going to acknowledge them. Each principal has a little bit, a capture to say. Principal DeAndrea is going to model the time. As I'm looking at Principal Metcalf before he even gets ready. And I am going to take point of privilege to excuse Principal Lytle. His son is being recognized at their board meeting for excellence in math. So kudos that it's not just happening within the building, but also at home. You're free to go, sir. And the mic is yours, sir.
All right, thank you very much, Dr. Scriven. Unfortunately, none of our 25-year recognitions were able to be here this evening, but I will take a moment just to highlight some of the successes of each of them. Starting with Abby Manser, who is a 1992 graduate of Cheltenham High School and an outstanding teacher in our English department. She masterfully engages students in meaningful English instruction, and she is known for her innovative ideas, relationship building, and excellent student outcomes. She's also overseen the school newspaper from the days of printing a newspaper to the transition to the digital version. This required many hours outside of school time, but gave her students an opportunity to experience the fundamentals of journalism. Dr. Scriven, you want me to just keep going? Okay, straight through. Okay. Christine Rappaport started as a classroom aide at Cheltenham High School and then became a teacher at Cedarbrook Middle School before being assigned to a split position at Elkins Park and Cheltenham High School. Most recently, she's been a full-time special education teacher at Cheltenham High School since 2005 and is known for her ability to connect with all students, her willingness to go above and beyond to support her students in any way possible, and her attention to detail in instruction and IEP development and monitoring. Janet Tomasky has 37 years of experience as a health and physical education teacher and has spent the past 25 years at Cheltenham High School. She's known for her excellent organizational skills, her dedication to meeting students where they are and helping them succeed, and her commitment to students growing holistically, both inside and outside the classroom. Jonna Geigert began her career in the Cheltenham School District as a paraprofessional and kindergarten aide at Cheltenham Elementary School. She worked both summer school and recess duty, and she affectionately talks about the kickball game she organized and how she created meaningful connections with the liveliest kindergartners. In 2008, she became the receptionist here at the administration building until 2021 when she became an assistant to our vice principals at Cheltenham High School. Jen Eisenberg spent most of her career at Cedarbrook Middle School, but's been a math teacher at Cheltenham High School for the past 6 years. She has an innate ability to connect with students who may not have experienced success in math previously, and she inspires them to excel in ways they may not have imagined as possible. She's also a model of a reflective practitioner, always seeking to improve her practice through thoughtful analysis and reflection. She's been a key member of our Algebra 1 team and currently teaches our AP Calculus BC classes, which is the equivalent of second semester college calculus. And finally, Sarah Putterman is a 1988 graduate of Cheltenham High School who taught in Philadelphia schools for 7 years before coming to Cedarbrook in 1999, where she served as a math teacher and department chair for 18 years. For the past 7 years, she's been a math and computer science teacher at Cheltenham High School, where she's made a tremendous impact both inside and outside the classroom. Not only has she grown our computer science program and created new electives to engage students, such as cybersecurity and game design, she also sponsors our Computer Science Honor Society and our esports club, and she dedicates countless hours to supporting students in these activities. I do want to highlight one example. When some of our students wanted to start a hackathon, similar to what many colleges do to engage individuals in computer programming, Sarah willingly gave up 24 hours of her weekend to be present for the hackathon to occur, and she now does this every year. Today is her birthday, so we also want to wish her a happy birthday. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Next, we're going to have Mr. Holman, Director of Facilities, to come up. He has one individual that he wants to recognize this evening.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
And I just this is so embarrassing. I just lost my All right, so we'll just wing this. Rainier Handy has been a fixture in our district for 25 years. We always didn't see eye to eye. However, I've learned a whole lot from him. So I want to take this time to just celebrate him and to lift him up. And he's not here because he had a procedure today, but just to thank him for all he's taught me, and just to, we never stop learning, right? And we are all of our mottos. So just take this time just to thank him for that. All right, so that's it.
So I'm gonna take a point of privilege and just add a little bit to what Mr. Holman just stated. You heard him mention that they did not always see eye to eye, and without getting into the details, part of what we do as leaders is build capacity in others. And through the years that we've been here, we have played a real intricate role in developing Mr. Handy, who is now really excelling and his whole disposition and approach to the work has truly changed. And it's rewarding to see that that change is in such a positive light. So I will have him refer to the recording, to the shout out which we gave him. I'm going to call Principal Metcalf up because he's going to be short, sweet, and to the point. And we appreciate him in advance. Principal Metcalf.
Thank you. I will not be as long as Mr. Holman. Psych. All right, so I have a couple staff members up here. First off, everyone has already been introduced. I've known all of them as I'm a 95 graduate of Cheltenham High School, but also I began working in 2003 at the high school. So everyone, pretty much everyone on this list, I've had the pleasure of working with or just speaking to, and all really amazing workers. They love children. Starting with my building, Barbara Conway. Unlike other staff members of Cedarbrook, who I've only known for maybe 5, 6, 7 years, because my children also went through Cedarbrook, I've known Miss Conway forever. All those 25 years, I have known her since she's been with the district. Ms. Conway has a passion for teaching our scholars about financial literacy. She's dedicated to supporting our scholars and ensuring that they have a solid foundation in investments, business, and the job market, skills that all of our children really need. And to get it at such a young age or earlier age than the high school has really been a privilege for them just to learn about how to invest in stocks and bonds and to think about saving. So while it also may be difficult to conceive as an educator that she's had 40 years of actual teaching experience, I can't even picture that long. But it is nice to know that we have people that still just value the work and love the children. And sometimes they get on your nerves, but loving the children is the number one reason why we do this job. So regardless of what happens, she's always been one to support all of our scholars, good, bad, and different, through thick and thin, for the ups and downs. So for being there for 40 plus years as an educator, I just want to commend her all around. Our next person we have is Mr. McShay. So Mr. McShay is a very interesting teacher. He has a unique way of teaching art, which supports scholars' development of their own style. I've been around some other art teachers before, but I've never really seen anyone teach with a style that Mr. McShay has really used, right? He allows children to kind of develop their own way of being an artist. He gives them the freedom, the choice. He shows them a number of different ways and opportunities that they can, express themselves. And he really just takes all of that and supports them with trying to blend and find their own way and their own skill. And I think that's very creative. I didn't read anything off my paper for that one because Mr. McShay definitely does an amazing job. We've actually become really good friends, and we've worked together to kind of build our art program. We have some things coming up next year that we really want to focus on. Mr. Nestor, I'm very thankful for him. Not only is a physical education teacher, health and phys ed teacher, he's also our athletic director. We are very serious about our sports at Cedarbrook Middle School. It is the first time an opportunity where children become competitive, and ensuring that we have a program that runs very smoothly is important. We do, also serve as the first time where children who are disappointed because they didn't make a team, but we have to provide that information for them. And so it's a very difficult task on giving children that feedback the first time that they're rejected from a sports team that they really wanted to be a part of. But I think the way we work with our children and the way he has developed a plan just to ensure that our scholars have other opportunities has been really helpful. And coming to Cedarbrook, I think, also is very helpful for our scholars to have more opportunities if they don't make a team. There's always something else they can do. Mr. On, what can I say? He has a passion for science. He rarely speaks or has any ill opinion about something, but when he does speak about something, you listen because he's really trying to express himself, which he rarely does. So when Mr. On speaks, it's a very quiet time for us to just absorb what he's saying. He's also been very instrumental in our PLC meetings with the science department and just supporting the rest of his peers, ensuring that we develop really a lot of hands-on science so our scholars have real-world experiences. So I'm very thankful for him, and I know our scholars are as well. They might not realize it now, right, but they will at some point, just having those experiences at a younger age. As we often talk, some of the schools I've been to, we don't have these type of programs, right? We're not doing dissections. We're not building things. And so just to have those opportunities at Cedarbrook to do that, I think we're really privileged. Miss Suzanne. So she's one of our gifted teachers at Cedarbrook, and the one thing I can say about her, she has brought so many programs to our school. It's incredible, right? While her focus is on supporting children that have GIEPs, she also does a really good job making sure that other scholars who don't have GIPs have opportunities to engage in high-level thinking and creative work. We've done a couple of events this year. We did public service announcements around mental health and wellness, hate speech, and we had a hate speech forum, and that's really allowed our scholars overall to just express themselves. And some of the things that our scholars don't often have an opportunity to do is express themselves. So student voice has been very key and at the forefront of a lot of things we do at Cedarbrook. So just wanted to thank her for that as well. And that is it.
Next up, we'll ask Ms. Janad if she could please come to the podium to recognize her teachers.
Hello, hi. Excited to be here. Each time that I'm here, throughout my first year, I'm reminded of how many of our wonderful leaders grew up as part of the community and those on the board, and it just makes me feel more honored each time to be someone who has not grown up in the community, but has been blessed to be now a part of the community. And especially being able to honor two teachers that I have had the pleasure of getting to know their expertise and their passion. So Miss Jackie Sullivan, one of our current fourth grade teachers. It is said that the left side of the brain is generally responsible for logic and language, while the right side of the brain is responsible for creativity and intuition. Miss Jackie Sullivan is skilled at using both to create a classroom environment where students are solving math equations and developing well-thought-out journal entries. Students are expected to analyze data, but also use their words to share their feelings. Ms. Sullivan has dedicated 25 years to fine-tuning a student-centered classroom focused on problem solving, both complex problems in mathematics and complex problems in just being a fourth grader in day-to-day life. Ms. Sullivan is the I got it teacher. For example, when one of her students needs support with decision-making, she says, I got it, and is found having lunch for 30 minutes talking it through. When dates for standardized testing are shared, Ms. Sullivan says, I got it, and maps out a plan for the year to cover all of the needed skills, even the ones that would technically be taught after the test. When the doors open to set up classrooms, Ms. Sullivan says, I got it, hanging up lights to set a calming tone and securing furniture, carrying it herself throughout the building, down the stairs, so students have the spaces that they need. Hundreds of students have been impacted academically and socially because of Ms. Sullivan's unique skills and dedication to saying, I got it. Mr. Daniel Ward, physical education. A stellar group of Cheltenham elementary teachers conducted a book study this year. The name of the book was Rooted in Joy. Mr. Dan Ward embodies the heart, soul, and dedication of a joyful teacher, even 25 years in. As all know, Cheltenham Elementary has a state-of-the-art gym, which is only surpassed by the environment created by Mr. Ward. I share such with sincerity as the gym is where I go when I need a joyful moment in my day. Students are welcomed daily to engage in unique activities through thoroughly planned and lovingly prepared by Mr. Ward. For example, the gym was transformed into an obstacle course in March. Students watched intently as Mr. Ward modeled the course navigation. The time to set up the course, attention to detail in the use of materials, support of all students to succeed inclusively are testaments to Mr. Ward's dedication and expertise. Need more evidence? On the first day of professional development in August, I had the pleasure of doing a one-on-one check-in to meet each teacher for the first time. The next day, I shared the start of professional development with a quote Mr. Ward had shared with me to model for the team. This was at a time when there was skepticism about me being new to the community. It was a very quiet room, which is normal when someone first arrives. When I shared that I picked the quote from Dan Ward, the room cheered for Mr. Ward, sharing he is the perfect person to highlight, and much more. When your colleagues recognize you, you know you are stellar. When in need of a boost of joy, it can be always found in Mr. Ward's gym, and you are welcome to stop by.
Next, we'll have Dr. Robinson, if you could please come to the podium to acknowledge your staff. Glenside Elementary.
Good evening, everyone. All right, I'm going to start with the two that's not here. So I have the privilege of honoring three wonderful individuals of Glenside, and I'm going to start with Jessica Hoffman. I have emails from families singing the praise of Jessica Hoffman. She's the teacher that will show up in the summer at your swim meet, and such a profound presence in our school. And this is what one of her colleagues had to say. In her 25 years as a classroom teacher, Jessica Hoffman has not only imparted knowledge, but has also instilled a love for learning in her students. Her classroom is a place of warmth, encouragement, and growth, where every child feels valued and supported. Jessica's impact extends far beyond the classroom. She is the pillar of our community, known and loved by students, parents, and colleagues alike. Her hard work, dedication, and passion for teaching serve as an example to us all. Her commitment to education extends far beyond the classroom, as evident in her involvement of various extracurricular activities and initiatives over the years. From leading the newspaper club to serving as the GSSO liaison and contributing to the safety committee, Jessica has consistently gone above and beyond. She's not just a teacher, but a mentor, guiding students through challenges and triumphs. Her after-school tutoring sessions have helped countless students grasp difficult concepts, and Jessica's creativity shines through her co-founding of the Wax Museum that happens annually at Glenside, a beloved annual event that brings history to life for our students. Additionally, her initiative to introduce the Animal Parade that happens in first grade has added a delightful and educational element to the curriculum. And Mrs. Hoffman's passion for teaching and tireless dedication to her students make her an invaluable asset to our district. Here's to many more in years of success to Jessica. The next teacher, Patty Ward, we'd like to celebrate her. The words that come to my mind when I think about Miss Ward is she has a heart to serve others. Whether it's keeping our courtyard, when I first met her in 2017, she came in keeping our courtyard tamed, or unselfishly organizing a civic service in partnership with Arcadia to support her colleagues in the classroom, or supporting parents and covering children at our parent events. Patty shows gratitude in such endearing and low-key ways. One of her colleagues had this to say: I've had the pleasure of working with Patty for 25 years at Glenside. We met in 1998 as kindergarten teachers when we were classroom neighbors. From there, a beautiful work relationship and lifelong friendship blossomed. I have never seen a teacher who is more caring and dedicated to the success of her students than Patty. She is an amazing individual who is always looking to grow personally and professionally while helping her students to do the same. Patty's colleagues and students know that she's someone that they can count on to be there for them, and she will always be in their corner, cheering them on, encouraging them, and helping them to thrive and succeed. All of us at Glenside are so fortunate to have this wonderfully energetic, positive, and vibrant person to call a colleague, teacher, and friend. Congratulations to Miss Ward. And last but not least, I'm going to bring up Beth Sertikoff. Tonight, we gather to celebrate a true hero of Glenside Elementary, someone who has been a bright spot for our school and is serving 25 years. Beth Sertikoff started her journey with us as an academic aide, then became a library assistant, and now serves as our indispensable building aide and office assistant. To say that she wears many hats is an understatement. Beth practically runs the hat store. I can personally attest that without Beth during the pandemic, I likely wouldn't be standing here today. When everything seemed like it was about to crash and burn, Beth swooped in like a superhero. She helped close the office, open the office, and did everything in between when it was a challenge for other team members to make it in physically to the building. She was the glue that held us all together, and her institutional knowledge and insight have been invaluable. Beth is truly an angel. Her commitment, support, and diligence have made all of our lives better here at Glenside. She loves Cheltenham. It's where she grew up, raised her own children, lives and works, and we love her right back. So it is my honor to celebrate Ms. Sertikoff tonight, a true bright spot in our school. Thank you, Beth, for 25 amazing years of service, and here's to many more.
And last but not least, Mr. Teller, Principal, Wincott Elementary.
First, let me say I'm thankful that Mr. Lytle and Mr. Metcalf left me a few extra minutes. So I'm going to take their time. Mr. Scarpato. Many educators have seen the TED Talk offered by Rita Pearson, entitled Every Child Needs a Champion. Listening to Ms. Pearson describe her teaching style of advocating for children, I always hoped to meet an educator as committed to children as she is. Fortunately, Wyncote Elementary School has its own version of Rita Pearson, found in Mr. Paul Scarpato. While their styles are radically different, Mr. Scarpato embodies the value and importance of human connection, relationships, and the idea that any meaningful learning can only take place in the context of a relationship. For 25 years, Paul has formed these relationships in the context of his physical education classes. Kindness, respect, teamwork, collaboration, and a hint of friendly competition are the building blocks of his classroom and the relationships he creates. Whether kindergartners are getting balls to pop like popcorn on a parachute, or connecting basic concepts of force and velocity to throwing a ball with our fourth graders, or organizing our annual field day, complete with an afternoon of faculty games. We'll leave it at that. Mr. Scarpato embeds it all in a relationship. He's able to take the most athletic and move them to a higher level, and he's able to find a connection with the most reluctant athlete in the school. He realizes that for some students, the athletic field, the playground, and the gym are the places where they shine. He differentiates his instruction so that they can climb to higher levels. For some students who need a reset from the traditional classroom, Mr. Scarpato always makes the gym space available to them and will shoot hoops with them and talk things over with them so they can re-enter the classroom in a better place and always ready to learn. And every child at Wyncote knows when their physical education classes come up on their 4-day rotation cycle. Mr. Scarpato is a visible presence in the hallways, and not a day goes by that a child proudly announces, "I have gym today, don't I?" They know that because they have the opportunity to work with a true champion. Thank you, Paul, for your dedication and service to our district and to the physical fitness and social emotional health of our students. You model self-care for the rest of us in the long walks you take with your dogs, the endless disc golf tournaments that you compete in, and even the occasional indulgence at Mission Barbecue that nourishes you while you watch your beloved fills. Thank you for being part of the Wyncote team and for being our champion. Congratulations, Paul. Mrs. Ward. It seems like tonight we're honoring every ward that ever worked in the Cheltenham School District. So congratulations to Dan and Patty, but especially to Jen. I have something in my pocket that belongs across my face. I keep it very close to me in a most convenient place. I know you'll never guess it if you guess a long, long while. So I'll take it out and put it on. It's a great big kindergarten smile. And with the singing of that song, which has become somewhat of an inside joke for the two of us, a lifetime friendship with Mrs. Ward emerged. When we think of our district strategic plan and the emphasis on the portrait of a graduate, we need look no further than Mrs. Ward, a 1992 graduate of Cheltenham High School. For 25 years, Mrs. Ward has brought laughter and smiles to generations of Wyncote students and her colleagues. When I first joined the Wyncote staff, I had the pleasure of being on the kindergarten team with Jen and Sylvie Cifelli and Molly Brokerson, and I admit you were a little intimidating. That's okay. I've forgiven you by now. Yet after sharing the first of many conversations together, including our Friday versions of chicken salad with no tomatoes, and iced tea, not Diet Coke, at Elsie's, I quickly came to the realization that one of the greatest joys of my life is to be your friend and your colleague. Mrs. Ward has an ability to see the very best in children, even when it's harder for some of the rest of us. She has quiet conversations and makes deep connections. She holds students to very high behavior standards, and every student rises to meet her challenges. Just last week at an IEP meeting, a parent had a huge smile on her face, and she thanked Mrs. Ward for all that she did for her son this year. And when Mrs. Ward quickly deflects that praise, it's true when folks say there'll never be another Jen Ward. Mrs. Ward places a strong emphasis on the academic development of her students and makes learning come alive for them. Whether staging the kindergarten going boogie show or engaging second grade student voices in the creation of their bottle biography dolls, or raising funds for the chimps and the Jane Goodall Foundation, which connected to a story that you all were studying, you're always looking for ways to engage your students and make learning fun and meaningful and relevant. These classroom events bring smiles to their faces. Beyond the classroom, Mrs. Ward supports our school-wide initiatives. Whether helping with our One Book, One Read, One Win Code event, or planning a wedding shower, a retirement party, a baby shower, or convincing me to host a holiday party at my house, we can always count on Mrs. Ward's signature buffalo chicken dip, laughter and tears until tears roll down her face, and a smile. Always a smile. And in your 25 years in Cheltenham, we've had the pleasure of seeing Nolan, Aubrey, and Kinsley grow up right in front of our eyes. You have regaled us with stories of volleyball tournaments, driving lessons, research papers, and family vacations. The pride you and Chris, your beloved husband whom you first met in kindergarten at Cheltenham Elementary School, feel for your family is the same pride I feel in honoring you tonight. So thank you for all you do, and to borrow your phrase, we're definitely on an upswing. I have something in my pocket that belongs across my face. I keep it very close to me in a most convenient place. I know you'll never guess it if you guess a long, long while. So I'll take it out and put it on. It's a great big Jen Ward smile. Congratulations, my friend.
Dr. Scriven is doing pictures, taking pictures with the staff members who are here. So we'll just give them a minute for that. Okay. And another thank you to all of our teachers and staff members who were and weren't here on 25 years or more of service recognition. So thank you, everybody. We will not have a Cheltenham High School Student Council report tonight. We do have a sunshine announcement from our solicitor, Mr. Diazio.
I thought we had a Sunshine Act announcement, but there have been no executive sessions since the last meeting, so there is no announcement tonight.
I thought we did too.
Thank you.
So that is the announcement. Next, I'd like to have a motion to approve the April 9th, 2024 minutes.
So moved. Dr. Whiting. Second, Zachary Epps.
All right, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, and that motion carries. Next, we have our superintendent report by Dr. Scriven.
Good evening, everyone. So, as always, I am charged with superintendent's report. This one will be a little lighter than usual, but I want to start out with a quick announcement, and it kind of prefaces and grounds this report. I'm hearing individuals who have graduated from the Cheltenham School District. I also am a graduate, 1983. And I was a student athlete, but unfortunately, I was more athlete than student. And I acknowledge that. And in this role, that is one thing which I am extremely serious about, making sure that our students are well-rounded. I took the initiative to start what was called a Superintendent Advisory Council this year, where I went down to the 6th grade at EP. I have 7th and 8th graders from Cedarbrook and 9th through 12th graders at Cheltenham High School, for a total of about 55 students that are actively participating in this initiative. And I've had opportunities to listen to them throughout the entire year, and our last meeting was a culmination of all levels, all grades coming together to really have some vertical articulation about what's working and what's not within our district. There are 3 major priorities that our students have identified. And one of those priorities is something that a group of our student ambassadors are going to touch upon just a little bit, but I'm going to frame it for them tonight. And it's an initiative that they want to do, which is really a bridge initiative, where they are trying to make sure that as students are transitioning from those critical grades, 4th going to 5th, 6th going to 7th, and 8th going to 9th, that they have supports in place that will make those transitions successful. And I was so privileged under the leadership of one of our assistant principals, Mr. Ryan, at the high school, to really be in the audience in singular as superintendent and hear a group of about 8 students share their proposal for what this initiative should look like. And if we're on we can go back one slide. No, I think that's good. Thank you, Ms. Harding. That bottom bullet really talks about the guidance, the social, emotional, the pitfalls, the challenges, which they've identified and they experience and they see in the daily lives of students currently. And I'm not going to go into detail because the only thing I want them to really share tonight is their why around why they're so passionate with starting this program. I see I have football parents in the audience tonight. I know we just had a situation recently that came to light where there was really a heightened level of student athletes that in the current snapshot of their academic endeavors would be classified as being ineligible due to grades. And it was alarming because the number was a large number. And I can so relate to that as a student athlete of being in danger of not being eligible to play games, which probably are the only reason I made it through high school, to be quite honest with you. And this group of students that are few in number but are going to grow want to take ownership for being a part of change for their fellow students. And when I reflect back as a principal, I remember that that was something that I challenged my students most, was to be vested and take ownership in their own learning. And the fact that we have students who, one, are exemplary students, and their grades will show you that, but secondly, have a passion to want to have a profound impact so that others can have a better quality of educational experience, which ultimately will present opportunities that they would not normally have if they didn't meet certain criteria, is moving for me. Next slide. So the program is going to center around peer mentorship, where they're going to actually go through a series of activities to make sure that students are paired with a mentor which they would actually resonate with. And I think that that is pretty incredible because they want it to be successful. The high schoolers are not only going to peer fellow students within a high school, but they're also going to facilitate what is it going to look like to reach down to the middle school and what it's going to look like to reach down to EP. And in that third bullet, I'll just read it. The program seeks to foster a sense of belonging and empowerment. And I think that is critical when we really look at the journey and the challenges that our students are faced with each and every day. Next slide, please. I'll let you take a moment to peruse. As adults, so often we think we have the answers without really verifying with students what the real lived experience is. And I refuse to do it as a superintendent. I'm not going to push down things programmatically without giving students a voice. This program is not one that I developed. I simply synthesized a presentation which they shared with me. This initiative is something that a segment, a micro of a larger group developed and are willing to take ownership for. So, Mr. Ryan, I'm gonna have you come up, sir, first. And I know Noel, I see, I want you to introduce our students. I saw Simone earlier. I'm not sure all of who we have. They'll come up. Students, come on. Don't be bashful.
Good evening, everyone. As you can imagine, they're a little shy, which is abnormal for teenagers. And I believe in giving students voice, so I'm going to allow each of them to introduce themselves. I'm going to start off just so you can...
So as you do that, this is what I would like you guys to do. I just want you to give your why around why this program and why you're willing to take leadership to initiate it. I'm sure you all have a different why. To the folks in the audience and to the board, they were not aware. They just found out about this end of last week. But this speaks to how serious they are around being committed to this initiative. So whichever order.
Hi, my name's Simone. I know that this program is really important to me because personally my transition to Cheltenham High School was a bit rough at first. It's definitely a really different environment. Going from Cedarbrook Middle School to Cheltenham High School, there's a lot more kids. And I think that this program would be really essential to kind of maintaining the emotional well-being of a kid who just went from a school with not a lot of kids to a school with more than 1,000 kids. So yeah.
Okay, my name is Andy, and I believe that this mentorship program would be very beneficial to the student transitioning from the Cedarbrook to the high school, because me personally, I had trouble transitioning mentally, but also academically, because of the honor classes that you'll take in 9th and 10th grade, and how to manage all like the work and the stress and like testing and all that. And I believe that having someone who's lived that experience work with you would be very helpful.
My name's Destiny. Sorry, I'm a bit nervous. I think that this program could help encourage and just build up the students who need it. So, yeah.
Hi, my name is Noah Ryan. Is this on? No, it's on. Okay. My name is Noah. Oh, the actual. All right. Okay, sorry. My name is Noah Ryan, and I think this program will help foster really strong relationships between peers in the school, because being a freshman, it's kind of difficult for some people. Me personally, I'm having a great experience so far, and I like it. But I know people who really need somebody to look up to and to, like, I would say, guide them through their high school journey, because I have tons of junior friends, and I look up to them a lot, and I, like, respect them. So having relationships and having somebody to talk to when you don't have anybody else to go to, it just makes everything easier for you. So.
Hello, my name is Jayla Elliott. I believe that this mentorship program will be very beneficial to our high school community as like a whole, because I believe that our grades shouldn't be divided as in just 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th. It should be Cheltenham High School. And I feel like being able to connect different grades who usually don't interact with each other in the regular school day, through their interests, through their emotions, which are totally valid and are similar at different times, and making connections between those different groups, I believe will be very beneficial to really connect all of us together and, you know, have a healthy community in our school, and really just make sure that our students are where they need to be, they know what they need to know, and they know how to progress in life at their high school. So.
Hi, I'm Noelle Ryan. My reason for thinking that this program will benefit our school is because my personal experience was throughout high school, I had a person to look up to, and I always was very outgoing with trying to, you know, learn information from the person that I looked up to. And honestly, that was Simone. And just being able to have that information from someone that's already gone through that experience and that knows what you're going to need to know in your next grade is very important. And it just kind of puts you in the next step ahead. And I feel like, especially because it's not only freshmen and it's freshmen and sophomores that get to learn through that. It's a progression period, and it takes a lot of time to really get into that settled state where I'm like, oh yeah, I know what I need to do. I know how to do it, when to do it, where to do it, etc. And all that's very important, and this program will help a lot with all the students. So.
I just wanted to highlight three students that are not present with us that also participated in the development of the program: Helen Dugan, Osei Johnson, and Lev Sukler, sorry. So those students are not with us, but they were all participants in the Delaware Valley Consortium for Equity and Excellence program, Institute rather. So all of the students participated in that event, and as a culminating activity, they were asked to identify a problem in their school and develop a solution. These talented minds identified several problems, and we narrowed it down to this solution, which we've developed over the last 2 months or so, and we're very excited about it.
Well, we thank you guys. So that concludes my superintendent report. To Mr. Ryan and to our students, I really thank you for taking time out of your schedules this evening, and I look forward to really unpacking and coming alongside you guys on this journey. A couple of our students are also on my advisory, so we're not going to duplicate efforts. We're going to come together as a united front, and we're going to attack the work.
Thank you. Mr. Schultz?
Sure. Thank you. I just wanted to, I felt I had to say something. I'm so moved by what you all are doing. I'm so thankful for what you are doing. And the gift you're giving your peers and your community is, I mean, it's kind of, I can't quantify it. And thank you. And I also just wanted to say that what you're doing here, you're going to carry this spirit through your lives, and any community you're a part of and any community you're touch, you're going to be making better. It's so evident from what you're involved in now. It's how we move forward, and it's how we build, and so thank you again.
All right, we ready to move on? Okay, thank you. Next, we will have public comments on agenda items only. If you are in the audience here and you have comments that you would like to make, you can come to the podium, state your name and where you reside in the district. If you are watching us online, you can email us at csdboardmeetingcomments@cheltenham.org. No hands up. All right, we will move into our committee reports. The financial affairs update will be provided by Mr. Schultz.
Thank you, Ms. Henry. The Financial Affairs Committee met on May 7th via Zoom and in person at the Administration Building. Following roll call and approval of the minutes, the board received a presentation from our third-party auditor, BBD. The audit came out clean and reflects an overall surplus for the last year of around $8 million, primarily due to increased revenues from unexpectedly high interest rates, as well as some savings attained through efficiencies. The next agenda item was a review of this year's financial reports, and we continue to have healthy financial outcomes in this budget year as well. The final item was a presentation of the survey results for our ongoing feasibility study. The community seems generally supportive of transitioning from the current Elkins Park model, which is a 5th, 6th intermediate school, to a K-5 model and a 6-8 middle school. Please view the presentation on our website as well as the recording for more details on all three of these items. The next Finance Committee meeting will be held on June, I believe, 11th, but I intended to fact check and totally failed, so June 11th. Thank you. That concludes, and I want to highlight that that is a different schedule than usual. We have swapped the legislative and financial affairs meetings, so it's 1 week later than usual. It will be on the second Tuesday of June. Thank you. That concludes my report.
Thank you, Mr. Schultz. Dr. Whiting will provide the educational affairs update.
Thank you, Madam President. The Educational Affairs Committee met April 16th, 2024 at 7 p.m. in a hybrid format at the Administrative Building. Following the roll call and the approval of minutes, the meeting was led by Dr. Mary Kay Feely and Mr. Jim Taylor, principal of Wincott Elementary, to present information on a draft of new report cards for the elementary school. The goal of the report card reorganization is to have standards-aligned, grade-appropriate report cards for students in grades K through 12, primarily at this phase, grades K through 5. Special acknowledgement was given to Miss Andrea Clipcham from Myers Elementary and Miss Lisa Morgan and Mr. Andrew Smith at Elkins Park School, who collaborated with a cohort of 24 K through 5 teachers and Cheltenham administrators to draft new report cards. Teachers highlighted a need for better aligned scope and sequence in curriculum, a need for common assessments and grading rubrics, and improved caregiver information and access to report cards. In addition, the revision of elementary report cards is well aligned with the strategic mission of the district, including Portrait of a Graduate, teaching and learning, social emotional health, and diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging. The report card realignment process was supported by a video from Mr. Taylor and Ms. Clipsham describing how report cards are being realigned within the district. A meeting was held with the United Parents Group, the Cheltenham African American Alliance, and the Special Education Alliance of Cheltenham to discuss the report cards and receive feedback on April 29th. A second draft of the report cards is being collaboratively drafted by Mr. Taylor, Ms. Collins, Dr. Riley, Dr. Feely, and Ms. Ferraro to review at a later date. A special shout out to the administrators and teachers who took time to participate in this process. It's clear as one board member that this was an inclusive and collaborative process, which is consistent with our approach and values. Thank you to the educators who took time to improve and align our report cards across our K through 5 grades. The next Educational Affairs Committee meeting will be held on Tuesday, May 21st at 7 p.m. in a hybrid format here in the administrative building. This concludes my report, Madam President.
Thank you, Dr. Whiting. Mr. Burdell Williams will provide the Eastern Center for Arts and Technologies report.
Thank you, Madam President. The Eastern Center for Arts and Technology Joint Operating Committee met on Wednesday, May 8th. This was an in-person meeting. First order of business, as always, at Eastern is to approve our May Student of the Month, and happily for another time this year and a number of other times in the past, we have a Cheltenham High School student who was awarded as the May Student of the Month. So Nalissa Bryant, a Cheltenham High School senior, is the May 2024 Student of the Month at Eastern Center for Arts and Technology. She is recognized for her outstanding work in Eastern's Culinary Arts program. Actually, the dessert at the in-person meeting both were made by Nalissa. Nalissa's journey into the Culinary Arts program at Eastern began with a family connection, as her aunt is also a proud graduate of the program. Her passion for cooking and baking runs deep and was inherited by her abuela and great-great-grandmother, who passed down their culinary talents with love. Nalissa thrives in the program's hands-on learning environment, eagerly embracing every opportunity to hone her skills and prepare for her culinary future. Her goal is to open 2 cafes one day. One will honor her great-great-grandmother's baking legacy, featuring an array of macaroons, cookies, and specialty cupcakes. The other cafe will be a place where the underprivileged can experience the joy of fine dining, offering a unique, inclusive culinary experience. These cafes will not only showcase Nalissa's culinary skills, but also her commitment to sharing her love of food with others. At Eastern, Nalissa goes above and beyond as a student ambassador for the Culinary Arts program. She has represented Eastern at several major recruiting events, including the Career Expo, where potential students experience and explore the school's offerings, and the Open House, which is a chance for families to tour the campus and meet instructors. Nalissa's involvement extends to Eastern Student Focus Group, where she contributes her insights, and she was chosen to be on the panel discussing and addressing microaggressions that I was proudly a part of as well, displaying her leadership and advocacy skills. In February 2023, Nalissa was recognized with a student spotlight during Eastern's Black History Month celebration. And at Eastern's 2023 awards night, Nalissa received the Director's Award and the Straight A Award. Nalissa is a strong advocate for diversity and inclusion, proudly embracing her identity as part of the LGBTQ community. At Cheltenham High School, she's deeply engaged in the theater program, highlighting her talents on stage. Outside of school, Nalissa is a dedicated dancer and serves as the captain of the Enon Tabernacle Baptist Church drill team. After graduating from Eastern and Cheltenham High School, Nalissa plans to attend Johnson & Wales University. There, she will pursue culinary arts and work toward earning a master's degree in culinary science, solidifying her expertise in the culinary field. We followed that up by some very exciting approvals in the area of academic, policy, personnel, facilities, and financial affairs. One specific point of emphasis was enrollment projections for the 24-25 school year. Eastern is projecting growth of 11 students up to a total of 699 total students for the 24-25 school year. Just for reference, that is a 104 student increase from 2017, and the vast majority of that increase, actually a total of 80 students in that total of 104, were because of the addition of the 2 new programs for robotics and exercise science. The goal of the addition of the programs of exercise science and robotics was to decrease the number of students who would not be accepted into one of Eastern's programs. That number still runs at close to 80 students this year out of the 699. Some of them are on wait lists. They may have the opportunity to get into a second choice program, but there's still a significant number of students who exist on the wait list at Eastern, which is not uncommon at career and technical education schools around the country. Specific to Eastern, which is not a very large site in comparison to some of the other local career and technical education institutions, such as those in Bucks County, Eastern has had to do what they could with the space that they have, and are continuing to invest in looking for opportunities to expand their programs and reduce that wait list. And with our help and our advocacy for our students, we can continue to do that. That concludes my report. The next meeting of the Eastern Center for Arts and Technology is June 20th, 2024 in a hybrid format, and the link to that meeting can be found on Eastern's website at eastech.org. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Burdell Williams, and congratulations to our student of the month. The MCIU report will be provided by Ms. Lohman.
Thank you, Ms. Henry. The Montgomery County Intermediate Unit Board met on Wednesday, April 24th, in person and over Zoom. Prior to the public board meeting, an executive session was held to discuss personnel matters. The meeting started, as it always does, with a program highlight, one of which is actually Cheltenham is involved with. Dr. Pia Housel, the program administrator for Project Aware grant, presented an overview and first-year reflections on the project. This is the $4 million over 3 years grant award that the MCIU has received with several other partners. AWARE stands for Advancing Wellness and Resiliency in Education, and they received the award from the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration and the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services. The partners include Carbon-Lehigh Intermediate Unit, Luzerne Intermediate Unit, CHOP, the PA Department of Education, and the PA Office of Mental Health and Substance Abuse Services. The goals of the grant are to provide appropriate mental health screenings and train staff to school districts, suicide prevention training programs for all students, and an electronic system to expand referral pathways. And I mention this because Cheltenham is only one of 2 districts in Montgomery County as of now, which has participated and completed the SHAPE assessment tool, which looks at a school district's comprehensive student mental health services, and it's kind of a jumping off tool to figure out sort of where to go next. So we were only one of 2, so thank you, Ms. Keene. And the other sort of reflection that was shared with us this past year is that all the effort that's gone into developing the electronic system to expand referral pathways so that counselors and other people in school buildings have some resources at their fingertips to provide to families when they need to go elsewhere. So there's been a lot of effort going into that. And then the suicide prevention training programs have also been fairly robust, and there's been quite a bit of work around that, including a club, and one involving a club called a student-led club called Avendium. Is that what it is? Avendium, that the IU is trying to bring to more districts in our intermediate unit. So it's a really, really interesting project. It has a lot of different facets to it, and excited to see where it goes next. A couple of other just highlights. Dr. Speaker, who's the executive director of the IU, shared there have been several initiatives, celebrations, trainings that have been going on at the IU. In April, one that I just wanted to mention was a Steels Expo at Upper Marion School District on April 23rd. Those are the new state science standards. Over 300 science teachers attended that expo to learn more about the Steels standards. So that was an exciting event for the IU. There was also a legislative breakfast on April 26th at the IU offices in Norristown, which included a press conference arranged by Children First, following the legislative breakfast, about ensuring that the state legislature makes good on what a court has ordered it to do, which is provide more funding for our public school system. So, and that was a great event. I was able to be at that, and Dr. Scriven was there too, and so Dr. Smith is there as well. So it was a really, and our state rep Napoleon Nelson. So it was a great event. Kind of very energizing around things that sort of need to happen in public education. And then one other thing I just wanted to mention is that the board approved a lot of agreements, contracts, a variety of other things, and that we also approved a partnership agreement with Bloomboard Inc. for the implementation of the teacher apprenticeship-based bachelor's degree program called Guided Pathways to Success, or GPS. This is another pipeline program to encourage paraprofessionals, in this case to become special education teachers. So the IU's continued to look at the pipeline issue and try to develop partnerships to try to address the need for additional teachers in Pennsylvania, especially in the special education field. Couple things coming up in the IU actually this week, this Thursday, May 16th, the IU is hosting the Multilingual Learners Community Partner Fair and Instructional Symposium. And then the next IU board meeting will be on Wednesday, May 22nd at 6:45 p.m. And prior to that will be the MCIU's annual retirement reception and celebration. And this ends my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Lohman. Ms. Blitzstein will provide the facilities update.
Thank you, Ms. Henry. The May Facilities Committee meeting was held on May 7th, 2024, in person and by Zoom. The following agenda items were discussed. The CHS drain repair was completed. There had been a deteriorating drain at the bottom of the tennis courts parking lot, which posed a significant risk. It has been repaired. We were informed that Revision has shared a plan for the high school, including timelines that make efficient use of resources. The plan has a final deadline of the year 2050, which allows for gradual progress over the next few decades that allows for achievable and realistic goals. Next up is the roof. The high school roof will have outlived its life in 3 years. Some parts are in need of full replacement, but others are candidates for restoration. The total cost for the replacement is $3 million, while restoration is about half to 2/3 of the cost. So whichever option is chosen, there is a guarantee in quality and longevity by Tremco Roofing Systems. Next, we heard that new receptacles have been placed all over the district to streamline waste collection across all of our schools and buildings, and we are hoping this will lead to a more effective recycling system, because encouraging students to develop good habits they can bring into their lives beyond school is something we all are looking for. We heard a Myers Playground update to follow up with a parent concern. Additional mulch has been ordered and it is currently being delivered. And hopscotch boards have been painted. Mr. Holman noted that he is committed to making further enhancements to the schoolyard in the future. We also heard that Mr. Holman met with the Earth Club at Glenside and thanked them for doing the right thing when no one is looking. And there was some discussion around solar panel investigations for the high school since we're working with roof repairs at this time. Mr. Holman said he will be looking into that, and Mr. Swigert has met with several consultants for information on solar panels. The age of the roof is a concern, putting brand new equipment on a very old roof. And there are payback periods that can be investigated. It will be explored more once the feasibility study plan is in place, as it requires capital investment. The full presentation may be found on the district's website homepage by clicking on the presentations tab. And next month's hybrid meeting will be held on June 11th. Noted different usual time. But June 11th at 7 p.m. in person here at the administration building and on Zoom. And that concludes my report.
Thank you, Ms. Blitzstein. Ms. Mulhern will provide a liaison group update.
Thank you, Ms. Henry. The liaison group did not meet in April. We will be meeting next Monday, May 20th at 8 a.m. And that concludes my report.
Thank you, Ms. Mulhern. Ms. Loman will provide the policy update.
Thank you, Ms. Henry. The policy committee met on Thursday, April 25th at 7 p.m. After a roll call and approval of minutes, the committee had a second reading of 8 policies, which the board will be voting on for adoption tonight. These policies are Policy and Administrative Regulation, AR 200, Enrollment of Students, Policy and AR 217, Graduation Requirements, Policy and AR 605, Tax Levy, Policy and AR 618, Student Activity Funds, Policy 623, Travel Reimbursement Federal Programs, Policy and AR 257, Student Prevention and Self-Harming Behavior, Suicide Prevention and Self-Harming Behavior, Policy 625, Procurement Cards, which would be a new policy, and Policy 831, Fraud, which would also be a new policy. I just wanted to highlight a couple of these. The Policy 217 and its accompanying AR on graduation requirements, this policy was being revised to reflect the fact that beginning with the class of 2025, the board requires that each student earn 28 credits in order to be eligible to graduate. The class of 2024 has to earn 27 credits. The increase in 1 credit reflects changes to state law that require some additional courses that students must take. That revised policy also requires supports to be provided to students experiencing educational instability to ensure that they graduate in a timely manner, including development of a graduation plan to facilitate this process for students in grades 9 through 12 who are experiencing educational instability. I also wanted to highlight policy in AR 257, Suicide Prevention and Self-Harming Behavior. This is a policy that we had fairly recently reviewed back in 2022, but the revised policy adds 18 definitions and states that the district is committed to providing access to age and developmentally appropriate youth suicide awareness and prevention supports and resources to all students without bias or discrimination. And the revised administrative regulation details the district's methods of prevention, methods of assessment and intervention, and methods of response to a suicide attempt or suicide, along with suicide awareness, prevention, and crisis resources. The board then had a first reading of 3 policies. Those policies are Policy in AR 227, Controlled Substances, Policy in AR 233, Suspension and Expulsion, and Policy in AR 260, Make Up Work After Absence. The Policy 227, Controlled Substances, the revised policy is being updated to include new language around what the superintendent and their designee must do when students are found to be using or in possession of controlled substances. The revised AR includes language on procedures related to self-referral by students, which is when any student voluntarily admits a drug, alcohol, or controlled substance dependency problem to any district staff member. Such a student will be referred to the school's student assistance program. The revised AR also includes language about when the superintendent may hold expulsion proceedings for controlled substance violations in abeyance and may permit a student to return to school after a 10-school day suspension if the student agrees to obtain a drug and or alcohol assessment and comply with those assessments recommendations. The suspension and expulsion policy, the revisions to that are minor edits and word changes, and then the policy in AR 260, makeup work after absence, the revisions are also fairly minor edits. However, as a reminder, this policy in AR outline the situations in which students may make up work and class assignments when absent from school, the procedure to be followed in order for a student to be permitted to make up such work and class assignments, and any limitations on a student's ability to make up work and class assignments when absent. The committee also did discuss another policy that was brought up to remind the board that we need to start thinking about it again, basically, which was policy in AR 823, energy management sustainability. This policy was adopted by the board in 2021, and in it, the board established a goal of adopting a sustainability plan on or before June 30th, 2022. That is a work in progress. There was a discussion about the need to restart the process of developing the plan, especially in light of upcoming major facilities renovations or new construction. As a reminder, all active and draft board policies can be found on Board Docs, which is accessible by going onto the district's website, clicking on the School Board tab, and then clicking on Board Docs under School Board. The next policy committee meeting is to be determined. This was the final policy committee meeting for the 2023-2024 school year. This ends my report.
Thank you, Ms. Lohman. Mr. Epps will provide the legislative update.
Thank you and good evening, directors, administrators, members of the public. As a member of the Montgomery County School Board Legislative Committee, we do meet periodically to discuss both proposed and adopted legislation that impacts our community. But before I get into my report, I'd be remiss if I didn't shout out a very proud administrator that I observed tonight, Ms. Keene. When Principal Lytle was talking about PBIS work and the MTSS work, honestly, you look like you were in dreams. And then when he talked from Tier 1 to Tier 2, getting recognition, moving from Tier 1 to Tier 2, it just went like to that level, cloud 9. So I know, I've personally seen you going to and from Myers in your work. So I know that was a proud administrator moment for you, but it was also a sign of progress for us as a district, moving from not just getting the recognition, but moving up the tiers and being recognized for what we're doing. So definitely wanted to highlight that proud administrator moment that I observed. But back to my legislative report. And so we did convene last week, May 7th, 2024 via Zoom. We were joined by the House Majority Leader, Matt Bradford, who's also a representative right here in Montgomery County, the Norriton, Perkiomen, Skipack area, which is just, not just, but west of us in the county. And so overall, he offered encouragement really to maintain our roles as advocates, that there are still opportunities to find some consensus and to open up conversations, specifically related to school funding, which we heard about a little earlier, but also related to cyber charter reform. That's something that received a lot of attention over the last year, but it's fallen off the radar a bit. But he personally stated it's not gone. So we certainly need to thank you for Mr. Schwager for keeping that on our radar from the financial perspective, and we'll certainly continue our advocacy to at least get that back on the committee's schedule and further in the political process, in the policy process. At the state or Commonwealth level, the Department of Education has estimated that Cheltenham will be eligible for approximately $4.6 million in property tax relief through the homestead or farmstead exemptions in the 2024-25 year coming up. So that's something. Overall, the Commonwealth, there's around $900 million that's going to be spread around the Commonwealth. Property tax is an ongoing conversation, and so that'll be an increase in the amount of relief that is available for our residents that qualify for that. That's been made official as of last week, I believe. In a very close vote, like within 3 votes, it's not often that we see legislation pass at this tight margins. But with a very close vote, the House of Representatives passed House Bill 1665, which would actually require that school districts create a comprehensive school counseling plan that includes an outline of services, procedures, and the general accessibility. And so this bill will move on for consideration in the Senate. It was referred to the Senate Education Committee, but based on the SHAPE mental health plan that we have in existence, some other things that folks have talked about, this might be an area where we are again ahead of the curve, and in terms of plans that we have and services that are already being offered, it might just be a communication thing that we're doing and a reporting on it rather than creating a whole new wheel. So again, proud administrator moment that we're ahead of the curve as it relates to some legislation coming up. In addition to 1665, House Bill 1875 received some wider support in its passage, but it also requires that school entities report to PDE around advanced course offerings and number of students participating. Again, something that we've been talking about over the last few years. I know it's somewhere around 36 or so AP offerings, something that we can celebrate. But certainly as we talk about the number of students participating, Cheltenham's a place that we can actually say, we're honest. We've been honest about what opportunity has looked like, some of the inequitable data that we found, and the action steps that the district is currently taking to not only increase offerings to advanced placement, but even, as we heard a little earlier, even if you're not in the gifted program, what are enrichment opportunities that are offered to students? Again, something that we can celebrate, but also probably learn and improve as the state thinks about what it wants to know from districts. So that also passed the House. It will receive consideration in the Senate, but certainly something that we want to know if we're going to need to report on it. I'm sure there'll be more information from the department that will come. Last but not least, along with that, it would also provide grant funding, the Access to Advanced Courses for All Students grant program. It would consist of dollars and funds for educator training, but also exam fee grants for students if that is ever a barrier. And so we still await the overall budget agreement between the governor and the legislator, which of course has significant implications on our own budget, our own school district's budget. Again, there is a proposal that would increase funding throughout the Commonwealth, education funding by about $1 billion. And for Cheltenham, that would mean about $2.4 million increase in annual funding. And so currently there are no other public proposals. Those are the only numbers that we really have to work with. But we know there are ongoing negotiations. There might be some counter proposals, but it is a very secret process. And unfortunately, the budget process is very secret. And so we are monitoring it. We do have very diligent administrators monitoring the process as well. But for anyone who's listening, it's a moment to let your voice be heard. As you heard from Ms. Lohman a little earlier, the state has to respond to the funding lawsuit in a real way. And so how much funding is adequate, right? You have a voice in that, how those dollars should be spent once funding is increased. You also, again, anybody who's a resident can make your voice heard and known. And again, we do have 2 representatives here in Cheltenham that sit on the very committees that decide on this. In the Senate, Senator Art Haywood sits on the Appropriation Committee, and then in the House, Representative Napoleon Nelson sits on the Education Committee. And so please do reach out to them and others as you feel to do. And that concludes my report for tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Epps. We will now move to the approval of our consent agenda. Can I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Before we go on to second that and to the vote, I'll open up the floor for comments from board members.
Should we have a second first? I'll second.
Second, okay.
I also have a comment. I just wanted to highlight the what's it titled? The approval of fund balance designations and transfers. During my report back, I mentioned that we had a surplus last year. Part of the reason, normally the goal is to have not a deficit, but also be close to your budget. We faced good luck, which is part of why, good luck and hard work for efficiencies, but that surplus is also necessary because of the fact that we are exploring the feasibility study and we have serious capital needs over the next several years. And so this item that is under consideration for approval would allocate $6 million worth of our surplus from last year towards those incoming projects that we know we need to do. So I just wanted to highlight that because it is a responsible thing to do and reflects good application of the work that we've been doing.
Any other comments from board members? Mr. Epps?
Well, Madam Chair called this on. Thanks. I want as we I don't know if Dr. Scriven was going to say, but as we welcome another administrator or consider welcoming another administrator tonight, I wanted to point out that as we heard from almost each of our principals tonight, how we are living our mission and values, specifically around providing inspiration and resources. And the teachers that we heard tonight were doing student-centered inspiration and resources before that was even a term, probably, a buzzword, if you will. And so I wanted to mention, as we consider bringing in an assistant superintendent, some of the real offerings that are happening that is student-centered that I have joy hearing about. So one was the hackathon, the art that explores one's own style, former students becoming teachers, financial literacy, another way that we're ahead of the curve with the state, enrichment opportunities, even if you're not in the gifted program, balancing logic and emotions, biography dolls, humble leadership by teachers. Like all of those things are things that we need to be intentional around. I see that in our continuous improvement process. I see that as we talk about the PLCs and what conversations are happening at the school level. And so all of these things, again, I talk about it as another deposit of trust in our administrators, another deposit of trust in our incoming administrators, that this work will continue. This focus around student-centered inspiration and resources will continue to be our guide. And so I wanted to highlight that I see it in action, but also continue to be intentional as we move forward.
Thank you, Mr. Epps. Mr. Burdell-Williams?
Yep. So as has been relatively tradition, I think around this time of the year, I do want to just share some appreciation for the long list of volunteers. This is much longer than what we anticipate. I know we have a lot of field trips finishing up the school year, and we've, again, just reflecting on where we were just a few years ago, where the pandemic environment essentially prevented volunteers from being in the school. I'm constantly reflective of the community members who intend to bring their talents into the school day by like interrupting almost their own work experiences or whatnot to be able to create experiences that are going to be beneficial and enriching for the students in the district. I also want to just briefly reflect on some of the retirements that we have, as well as approvals. A lot of the individuals on this list have touched my own children, many of which are at Glenside Elementary or Elkins Park or the high school, as well as Miss Darden, who is my son's current English teacher and is very awesome. I am very disappointed that she's leaving, but also very excited for what her future holds. And the same goes for all of the other educators. Just reflecting on the retirements that many of the individuals who are on the agenda for approval have had at least 20 years of in district employment, that is notwithstanding any prior educational experience that they've had. So grateful for their involvement and engagement in education over this time, and if it's before that, and if they want to come back in any volunteer capacity, please do, because we would welcome you along our approval of volunteers list as well. And that's all I had. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Burdell Williams. Ms. Blitzstein?
Thank you. I also just wanted to acknowledge a few of the people on the retirement list, two of whom I had as teachers at the high school. Lori Cohen, who was my 11th grade honors English teacher, and Ms. Kleinerman was my math teacher, and I apologize. We'll just leave it at that. Mrs. Harvey, I mean, there aren't really any words to say what her music instruction has gifted to my own child and our family, and I mean, just beyond. She started teaching my oldest violin when he was in 4th grade, and he's still playing in 11th grade as part of the chamber orchestra at the high school, and he is just blossomed. And I did not play violin as a child, so he did not get that from me, but I just think Mrs. Harvey has the most incredible ability to get dozens of children playing the violin, like the squeakiest instrument on earth, at the same time. It's amazing. And if you have not been to one of her concerts, look on our social media, like just look back, because it's really worth watching how many kids she just commands in a room. Anyway, I'm very, very sad that my younger child won't get to do that. And I know that we can't fill her shoes, but I'm hopeful that we'll continue that legacy on. And I just really also want to acknowledge there's 58 volunteers on that list. And it makes me feel good as an educator, as a board member, as a parent, that feeling like we're all in this together. And I know that parents feel that way as well, especially when you see people on that list, which means they've taken the time to submit all the paperwork, and it's not a light lift there. And so I just really appreciate everybody who puts that time in for our kids. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Blitzstein. Ms. Mulhern?
Yes, thank you. I will be quick. One, excited about the furniture we're purchasing for Elkins Park School. Well deserved for our 5th and 6th grade students to have some new things in their classrooms, desks and chairs, kind of fitting or similar to some of the furniture that we have in Cedar Brook, if you're familiar. And any furniture that is purchased for Elkins Park School will move wherever those students may go in the future. But for now, they are at EP, and they deserve to have some new things. So thank you. Love all the volunteers. I know that our 6th graders are heading on their traditional camping adventure next weekend, so I'm sure some of those volunteers are going on that trip. So thank you to those parents, because they are not just going for one day. They are going for 3 days with many, many 11-year-olds. So good luck to all of them and the teachers. And just very quickly, immense appreciation for all of our retirees and our 25 anniversary teachers as well. I also have some violinists in my house. I have a current 4th grader, and Miss Harvey truly creates magic with those literally dozens and dozens of children. And if you want to see her final 4th grade and all 4 schools come together, it's next Wednesday night at Wyncote Elementary. I believe, I don't have the time, but it is 7 o'clock. Thank you, Mr. Taylor. It truly is. How she does it, I don't know. It is amazing. I also want to thank Mrs. Dos Santos, retiring kindergarten teacher from Wyncote. She taught 2 of my kids, 1st grade and kindergarten, and she was my son's kindergarten teacher, that 4th grader, and that was the year that COVID began. And so she was just so great with him and the whole class as we navigated new uncharted waters, and still was able to, communicate with us and get him the supports that he himself needed in that year. So I know that she is looking forward to spending time with her grandchildren, and I wish her well. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Madam
Famous
President.
last words, Mr. Burdell Williams.
Yeah, you know what? Yeah, sorry, not quick. No, but I will. Just to add on to the teacher recognition, first of all, appreciate Mr. Epps for the Julie Haywood mathematic calculation of the number of years that our retirees had, a total of 302 years of educational service at the Cheltenham School District alone, notwithstanding any of their other opportunities before that. And also, I would be remiss if I didn't mention Miss Wagner, who was retiring, who was my son's third grade teacher. And in terms of being student-centric, to partner with the comment that Mr. Epps shared, Miss Wagner took time out of her Wednesday evening to watch a Little League baseball game that had 5 of her students on it. It happened to be a team that I was coaching. And again, you know, Glenside teacher, but CLL is on the other side of the township. So again, that was not a special assignment. That was the part of creating a student-centric or carrying on a student-centric school environment that she really wanted to be a part of. And I could not let this go by without taking the opportunity to reflect on that moment. And I'm sure she's got many others like that with the students who've been in and out of her classroom for the last couple of years. Sorry, 31 years. Thank you. That's all. Thank you, Ms. President.
Thank you, Mr. Burdell Williams. We'll get to the vote sooner or later. Ms. Moman.
I do actually have to also say that both my kids have been the beneficiaries of both the 25 plus teachers and the retiring teachers. They're an amazing group. We're just really fortunate to have such incredibly devoted educators and community members, really. My son also had Mrs. Wagner for third grade at Glenside Elementary, and she is an exceptional educator. And I, especially at a very difficult time for our family, I was very grateful to have her as my son's teacher. And my son has also had Mrs. Eisenberg, who's also an incredibly gifted math teacher as well. So just feel very grateful. And Ms. Ward, I can't forget Patty Ward, who both of my kids had for first grade, and who also went above and beyond and called me during the summer and said she wanted something specific for one of my children, and she was going to make sure it happened, and she did. So, so they're really, really devoted educators. So grateful to all of them, especially knowing them, some of them personally, and some of the personal challenges that some of those people on both that 25 plus list and the retirement list have faced recently, and continue to show up every day with a smile on their faces. So, just wanted to, shout that out as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Lohman. Before I call for the vote, I just want to acknowledge that we have the appointment of our assistant superintendent as an appointment temporary while she's transitioning into the district, and then with her election to that role. So with that said, all in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed say
Aye.
nay. I'm an aye, and the consent agenda is approved. And I want to turn it over to Mr. Dr. Scriven.
So, first and foremost, to Mrs. ShaVon Savage, I'd like to be the first to officially welcome you in your capacity as Assistant Superintendent to Cheltenham School District. I'd like to just give a very brief overview. So, you heard me reference Mrs. ShaVon Savage, but she does have her Juris Doctorate in school law and public finance. She also has awesome, robust vita that you guys can see as part of the board doc in her resume. K through 8 experience as a principal, special education experience, student support services, and her most recent role was as the deputy sup in our neighboring district. So I'd like to acknowledge her family and friends. I'd like to invite you, Mrs. Savage, to the podium just for a few words. And family, I know this was a labor of love at almost 5 minutes. Little Sterling, her son, kudos on your grit and perseverance. To her husband, her parents, her family and friends who are here. Mrs. Savage, the mic is yours, ma'am.
I'll keep this very brief because I'm way beyond his bedtime. I just want to thank you for the opportunity to serve here in Cheltenham School District. I have lived in the area for years. I am an Abington grad and lived in Cheltenham for a number of years. And I see this as a homecoming. I am excited to get started in the work and continuing to center children in particular. And I do want to thank my parents for instilling in me a really significant and deep love for education. And to my wonderful husband for supporting me in all I do, and for really giving of himself so that I can make time to do these things. So I'm appreciative, and I look forward to getting started.
Could we just ask your husband and your parents to stand, please? Just, I don't want to take anything for granted. Mom, Dad. Mom, your legs fell asleep. Come on and stand up so we can acknowledge you, please. Wave your hand. Thank you, ma'am. Let me know, and Madam Chair is on it. So look, Dr. Philly's still here in the interim capacity. I'm being extremely strategic. Mrs. Savage will be able to start effective tomorrow in a consult role. We need all hands on deck as we have a lot of heavy lifting that we're doing in the district. So we're very intentional about our approach, and I just want to add that clarity for the public. So thank you.
Again, welcome, Dr. Savage. We will move on to public comments on non-agenda items. If you are in the audience and would like to speak, you can come up to the podium, announce your name and where you reside in the district. If you are online, you can email us at csdboardmeetingcomments@cheltenham.org.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Tara Knox. I reside in Wyncote. My son is a sophomore at the high school. I just have a few questions that a lot of the parents have gotten together that we have questions about over concerning issues within the school, particularly around the student athletes and other students that are within the school. Just some clarification because we're not quite sure what is the policy, what's going on. We've gotten conflicting information. The first thing I would like to touch on is when our student athletes sign up to play sports, we have to sign an agreement under a platform called Big Teams, which is a communication agreement platform. That is where their physicals are uploaded to, and that's where the parents have to sign off on for coaches to communicate with them to participate in sports throughout the entire school year. There's some conflicting information. We're not sure, according to the Big Teams contract and according to the school policy, what information regarding the students is confidential and not confidential when it comes to communicating with the coaches and staff members. To elaborate on that, I mean grades, behavior. We've been told some things are confidential, some things are not confidential, so we're not quite sure what is the policy according to Big Teams and according to the school policy. The second thing is for the coaches that are not staff members of the school, meaning working in the school throughout the day, what is their official title? Are they just coaches? Are they employees of the district? Or what's their title within the district? That we're not sure about that. The third thing, which is kind of a four-part question for Big Teams, parents sign off on a contract for coaches to communicate with the students. However, we've been told that coaches are not permitted to contact students throughout the day, school day, via texting or other communication platforms. It's a bit conflicting because when colleges come to talk to some of our students, usually it's during the day. So the way that they're communicated with is usually their coaches texting them or communicating in some kind of way to let them know that they need to come out of class and get a pass to talk to a coach. So according to this contract, we signed off permitting that, but we've been told that's not supposed to happen. So that's conflicting to us. The second thing is what can a coach hold a student accountable for according to the Big Teams contract? in that contract, there's a behavior clause, also a grade clause that they're supposed to adhere to. That seems to be conflicting to what the school policy and the PIAA policy is. So we would like clarification on exactly what are we following, big teams, school, or PIAA. And that concludes my questions. Thank you.
So knowing how proficient you are, Ms. Knox, I take it you have all that already in a draft format?
Yes.
Could you please forward that draft format to me?
Absolutely.
That will formalize your request, and I will definitely come up with a formalized response. And an upgrade that we're going to start to do is that when we get these formal requests, I will also make the formal responses part of our board docs for the public to be able to view. So
Thank you.
will, yes, ma'am.
I
So just
appreciate
wanted
you,
to
Dr.
acknowledge.
Scriven. Thank you.
Okay, you're so welcome.
Good evening. My name is Novice Ezel. I am in the Glenside area. I have a child in EP, Seabrook, and two children in the high school. I had a question. It's about the high school, about things that happen in high school if behavioral incidents happen. We were told that there was a report system that if the security guard caught a kid doing something, that they would report them through that system. I believe it's called the Swiss report. We wanted to know if parents are notified anytime a report is made. So is there any way for a parent to know that my son was written up for XYZ, and so that we know what's going on through the day? So if our kid is written up 5 times and we have no idea, we can't address that at home. So we just wanted to know what the system that was in place, if we were correct about the system, and if we can be notified about that.
So I will follow the same protocol that I did with Ms. Knox. I take it that you have that those questions drafted. Please.
So you want me to email you the question?
Yeah, email me. I will come up with a formal response that will also be made public, and you guys will have that in the immediate future. Those responses.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Hi, good evening. Hi, my name is Chawan Cowens. I am a resident of Elkins Park. I have two children in the high school currently, a 9th grader and an 11th grader. My question is, sorry, I totally lost my question that I have written down. Here we go. So, hearing things from my children or other students that are in the school that are their friends, I have questions along the lines of what are the restorative steps taken when a student is in violation of a behavioral conduct? So if there are actions that are, things that are occurring within the school, I've heard, again, conflicting stories where nothing has been done, where students have done things outside of conduct, such as brought things in or have acted out towards a teacher or an administrator, and they've been allowed to come back to school the next day. So are there any restorative practices in place when they're in violation of such incidents?
So I'm going to have to ask you to be a little more explicit as you unpack the questions.
Sure.
Because we're really getting into student code of conduct, and there's a plethora of policies and practices. I believe my parents kind of know that I am an open book. So any question you have, I will make sure we provide an answer. But I do want you to drill down just on what your main concerns are, so I could be very explicit with my response.
Sure, absolutely. So just for an example, I have heard of paraphernalia in the school.
Say that one more time.
Paraphernalia in the school.
Okay.
Such as drug paraphernalia,
Yes.
which they touched on it a bit tonight with the policy. So just if a student is caught in school with a vape, my children have told me on several occasions where they have been in the school, in the bathroom, someone has offered them something, there has been smoke in the hallways, in the bathrooms.
Okay.
People have come into the bathroom to find this, but again, the students are returning back to school the next day, and it seems that the same offenders, it keeps happening over and over again. So just wondering what steps are in place for something such as that.
Okay. if you could just forward that to me.
Absolutely.
And I'm sure there may be a couple more.
Okay.
I will definitely respond.
Okay. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Good evening, everyone. Can you hear me? My name is Dana Burnley. I reside in East Cheltenham, down the street from Cheltenham Elementary. I have an alumni that graduated in 2018, and I currently have a 10th grader at the high school. My question is, not an assumption, start with a disclaimer. Again, children talking, you know I'm a teen mom, we're all teen moms here. It's my understanding and our understanding that the authorities are not being called when intruders are caught in the building. We wanted to know about that and what the policy is, trespassing, intruding, coming in, being let in by other children as well, which kind of connects to Mrs. Cowan's question about contraband. You guys can read into that. The second part of that question is when an assault occurs against a staff member or student, more so, actually staff member or student, what is the policy? I can look and they can look, but have things changed? Because we're seeing some conflicting things again with policy. So we're a bit concerned. That's why we show up, not just talk. And we want to address it here. My second question, because that was the first question, part A and B. The second question has to do with ratios. And put a pin in that, ratios connected to our lunch and learn / community lunch. I am not sure, but I know that we have about almost 1,400 kids at the high school. We have a community lunch where students are in the gym, in the cafeteria, outside playing basketball. And we have a certain number of support staff and security. From what I just researched, the ratio is in the classroom is 14 to 1. Sometimes it says 20 to 1, but my concern is we're not having enough eyes on every student during community lunch. I've expressed my concerns on community lunch that it seems like it's a social project. So I still feel that way, and I'm still concerned. So that's all my questions. Thank you. I'll email you.
Thank you, ma'am.
You good? Okay. All right, there were no prior public questions. And the last item on our agenda are future meetings that are listed here. And again, I will just add that clarification that the legislative meeting for June has been moved up a week ahead of time on June 4th. And that is so that we can acknowledge our retirees who are going to come in for a dinner and to be celebrated. And then the financial affairs and facilities meeting will pick up, we're doing financial affairs on June 11th. The following week is when that meeting will be held. Those dates are listed in the agenda. Can I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved, Zachary Epps. Unless you want to stop my motion. Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Yeah.
Meeting is adjourned.